How's everyone doing? As many of you know, Barnes & Noble is having their 50% off Criterion Collection sale. It happens twice a year. And I picked up a few Criterion, 6 in fact. And if you've seen any of these movies, definitely let me know what you think of them and let me know which one of these is your favorite. Leave me those comments down below. And if you don't know what Criterion Collection is a company I'll read right on the back what it says, in fact. The Criterion Collection, a continuing series of important classic and contemporary films. And when I was younger and first getting into collecting films, they called Criterion Collection Film School in a Box. And that is essentially what it is. They have a wide array of great films, modern and classic. And I haven't been disappointed by anything I have seen by them until recently. So I'll get into that in a minute, but I'll go ahead and show you the ones that I picked up and let me know if you picked up anything from the Barnes & Noble 50% off Criterion Collection sale, and let me know what Criterions are on your wish list and what you would like to see Criterion Collection release in the future. First up is Errol and Maude. I had never seen this in its entirety. I had seen like clips of it here and there, and I was going in there kind of thinking maybe I'm not going to enjoy it that much because I've seen a bunch of classic films recently and ones that are considered to be, classic great films. I just haven't been blown away or been disappointed. So I was kind of thinking this might be the same case. And romance movies just aren't my favorite genre, rom-coms in general, but this one blew me away. I absolutely love it. One of my all-time favorite rom-coms now. It is a black rom-com. Very dark humor all throughout, and I love it. And there's certain things that I could kind of see coming, especially the climax to it. And then even after that, I called what was happening, like with the car, and then after that, I saw that coming, but I still thought it was amazing. And the Cat Stevens song in here, the soundtrack in general was amazing. And it's funny because I watched another movie, Martian Child with John Cusack, and there was a Cat Stevens song in there too. There's a couple other little things that kind of remind me of that. I was like, oh, it kind of ties in together, interconnectivity of it all. But this one was incredible to me. I can't believe I've gone this long without seeing it. It's basically about this young kid who is kind of morbid, and he continually tries to shock his mother and other people, in fact, dates that his mother sets up for him by doing these sometimes elaborate suicides. They're not real. He pretends to, hang himself, cut himself, burn himself on fire, all kinds of different things. And the mother's just like, he's like not even just impressed. It's just like, whatever. It's another day with Harold. So he's scaring all the dates away, and then he goes to these funerals all the time, and he meets Maude there, who is really much older. I think she's gonna turn 80 like a week, and that's one of the things I was just surprised by. Not much time went by, but it seemed like so much longer. But they have this romance, and she's so much like 60 years older, and they just kind of hit it off. They have so much in common. She's so wild and rambunctious and just, living life to the fullest. They're kind of opposites in that regard, but they have a kindred spirit essentially, and it is really touching and very moving film, and easily one of the best rom-coms that I've seen. Again, I think partly I enjoyed it. Actually, not partly. The majority of the reason why I enjoyed it was the dark humor aspect. I thought it worked really well, and I loved it. And a great release, too. Some really good special features on here. And I love Criterion Collection, what they do with the releases, the transfers, the films that they choose as special features. Usually they come with like a booklet as well. Sometimes they'll have film critics and scholars talk about it, and then the special features. Again, even the packaging is something I like, the clear cases, the artwork, interior artwork, disc artwork, all that stuff. So I absolutely love them as a company, and very happy with this one. The next few, I'm a little shaky on. A Brief History of Time, directed by Errol Morris. This is basically a documentary about kind of Stephen Hawking and his theories, and then him dealing with ALS. And while his body kind of deteriorates and he's not able to use it anymore, he's still able to think, and it kind of opens up broadens his horizons and imagination, and he starts utilizing his brain more and realizing that he can still do plenty. One of the things, though, about this and all the different things and the theories, and he's an astrophysicist and everything like that he's talking about, the universe, the Big Bang Theory, it's all just theories. It's all just speculation. In fact, in this documentary, he admitted a couple times that he was wrong. And that's just all these theories that are out there. Years later, it could be proven wrong, or, we're never going to know. That's just essentially the bottom line. So I don't know. This is 84 minutes. It felt like 3 times that amount. There's a lot of technical jargon used, and then some of the stuff, it just seems like kind of ridiculous that this is even a scientific theory, because it seems so kind of juvenile. Some of the stuff, it just seems like silly that this is a theory. But again, like I said, it's just speculation, it's theories. But it is interesting to think that he's considered one of the greatest minds, and it's interesting to see in the beginning of his college career that he wasn't taking things seriously. He was drinking a lot. Then he found his wife. He went through this the disease ALS, going through it. He passed away recently, and just different things that happened throughout his life. When he got hit by a car as well. I think he was in the car while he got hit, but he ended up getting 30 stitches in his head. And then dealing with the program that helped him communicate, like this little clicker which picks out all the different words. And I'm kind of curious. I wanted to know more about that, like how long does it take for him to say something, going through all, because you have to go through all these different words. So that was kind of interesting too. But you get some interviews with his family and friends and colleagues and things like that. So it was an interesting insight to him. I wanted a little bit more of that aspect, because the theory aspect, I get, is a big part of his life. But again, I felt like some of this it's so much speculation. He's admitting he's wrong. And then certain things where this one colleague kept going back to him several times with the same outcome. And Stephen Hawking keeps saying, no, that's wrong. But Stephen Hawking was wrong, and he admitted it. And it's just like one of those things, like, I couldn't get past that. It's just one of those, you just keep thinking like, well, you're wrong. These are all just speculations, theories that we'll never end up knowing. And that's the bottom line. I guess it's interesting to theorize and think. I get that, but I don't know. I'm such a skeptic, and it's just one of those things, like, I just don't think I would ever want to rewatch this again. That's my biggest issue with it. But it is interesting. It was to see some of the more facts about him. I wish they would have gone a little bit more in depth. Again, you've got all kinds of interior artwork too, this is a Blu-ray DVD combo pack. And there you go. Go ahead and take this thick booklet out. You got a good interview with the director on here too, and the cinematographer. Just dealing with, shooting that. And his family, I guess, was pretty eccentric in general too. And there you go. I'll go ahead and show you the interior artwork for Errol and Maude as well. And again, a really nice thick booklet. I like the artwork choice for that one too. But there you go. And yeah, there were some incredible scenes in here and lines in here, very memorable. This one to me, I thought it was intriguing about him. The theory aspect, not so much. I just don't know about the rewatchability factor. Next up is To Sleep with Anger, directed by Charles Burnett. Some really good special features on here. Also with him walking down the neighborhood where he used to grow up, and talking about some of the other films that he made. I thought that was really interesting. Danny Glover is the lead here, and this is basically kind of about a Southern black family. They're living in LA now, I believe, and this is set during the 90s. And basically, Danny Glover is a family friend. He comes back into town, and they kind of go through some old memories and stuff like that. But one of the biggest things that I thought was really neat, and probably my favorite aspect of this, also made me think of like part of my family down south. That even though, I'm not black, I think if you're down south, especially Southerners, they have a lot of superstitions. Black, white, no matter what, I think that's a shared thing. So I thought that was something that kind of made me think of my childhood, spending time with family down there, the different superstitions and things that are done. And also the hard work aspect too. A good hard day's work, and all the different cleaning and raising animals and stuff like that, chickens, and the different cooking and stuff like that. The family aspect in general, I feel like, was an important thing. So I don't know, just seeing those things kind of made me think of that, and especially the superstition aspect, sweeping on the shoes and just other different things. Danny Glover was great in the lead here. It is another one that has some darker elements, darker themes. I love the way that it opens up too. I wish it kind of would have tied together a little bit more. But basically he comes to town, and he's kind of like Doom. Because when he comes bad things start happening to other people. And I wish they could have played certain elements of this up a little bit more to give it kind of more of a surreal or a darker supernatural aspect. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity here. The whole time, there's certain little things that are said, and then the beginning of it, and then the end. I feel like you could have made this where he was a much more important, darker character, and I think they didn't quite live up to that. But again, it's basically the whole family that's already in kind of disarray. The two brothers are fighting, and the parents don't want to take care of the one son's kid all the time. So there's already kind of infighting. He kind of like disrupts that even more so, and then things get more chaotic. And the one guy ends up having a health concern, and then you see him leading the one son down into the woods too, and you kind of feel like that's going to happen to him too, because that happened the first time when he led the older guy down by like the trains and stuff, and then he came back and he was never quite the same until the ending. And I don't know, I just felt like there's some missed opportunities here, and I really love the superstition aspect of it, and just different things. The way they talk too down south, it's so different. Different slang terminology, and calling, you know, brother and sister and stuff like that for even the kids and stuff like that, big brother. And I don't know, I just thought that was really interesting. And again, this one, I'm kind of torn on it, if I should keep it in the collection or not. I'm not sure how much rewatchability factor it has for me personally. I think maybe some people could relate to it a little bit more, but again, living down south for a while, it's something that's my favorite part about it, all the different superstitions and stuff like that, and just the family dynamic, all of that. But there were some really good moments in here, and I thought Danny Glover was great in the lead. And you can kind of see how some people change, and then some people don't change as well. But some really good special features if you are a fan of this and a fan of Charles Burnett. And right there, To Sleep with Anger. And this one had a poster. And there's the interior artwork right there. I'll go ahead. It's just the cover art that you see. And then there is a write-up in here as well. And there's the family right there. To me, when I first saw this, I thought Danny Glover kind of looked like OJ right there. Maybe it's the knife, but I don't know. Initially, that's what I thought. OJ was an actor as well, but I did enjoy the film, but I'm not, for me personally, the rewatchability factor, but it's not quite there for me. So yeah, and then this one right here, the next couple one, I'll talk in a minute more. Smithereens, a film by Susan Seidelman. Oh man. I loved seeing New York City during this time period. This is from 1982. That was my favorite aspect of it, just seeing the dirtiness, the griminess of it. The lead character right here, Ren, is just basically a terrible person. She uses everybody in her life. She meets up with this one guy who moves here, and he's living out of his van, and he really likes her, but she basically just uses him. They go out on a date, and she leaves him when she sees this like lead singer to this band, the Smithereens. I thought it was for the actual band Smithereens. That's what I initially thought, but it's not. No tie in there. So she leaves him for the other guy, and then when the other guy kind of gets rid of her, she tries to go back to the guy. It's just that constant thing, and how she uses other people, and she just tries to use everybody in her life, her sister, her friends, and then they kind of concoct this scheme together, the lead singer to this band and her, because he wants to go to LA, and she basically will follow him and do anything for him, essentially. And you see how things kind of go awry, and just kind of shows the error of her ways. And it's one of those things where she'll never get it. And then the ending, I love the way that it ends, though. Very prophetic and fitting, too. But I feel like there's so many people out there that are just people like this, and they just never learn their lesson. They never see it. It's not everybody else in the world, it's you. It's kind of what it is. But yeah, this is a decent independent film, but it's one of those things where I couldn't get into it that much. I hated all the characters. You're not necessarily supposed to like all the characters in different movies, I get that. But the only thing that I really enjoyed about it was the New York City, seeing it during that time. The griminess, the dirtiness of it, you know, the kind of the punk aspect, all that. But I don't know, I just wanted more from the storyline. I didn't think it was anything that stands out. I don't know. It's just, again, if you're a big fan of indie films, especially from the early 80s and seeing New York City, you might appreciate it. But besides that, the stories, the characters, the dialogue, it wasn't anything special or stand out for me. But there you go, some special features right there. And I'll go ahead and show you, there's the disc artwork. And yeah, she puts up all these pictures of herself all over the city, like right there. She just plasters them over the subway and the trains and stuff, and all throughout the city. And I was just kind of just more showing her personality, because she doesn't have really any talents. She wants to be famous, but she doesn't sing. She doesn't really do anything. I feel like that is also kind of relevant for society in general today, that instant gratification. So that idea, that concept has been around for a while. And this must have been a previous rights by Shout Factory too. There's the little logo for them. But yeah, Smithereens, I'm not a fan of that one. Next up was one that I absolutely hated. Mike Leigh is one of those directors that is critically acclaimed, but I really haven't seen anything that I've enjoyed from him yet. I still need to see Naked. I have it over there somewhere. I think that's one of the ones that gets the most hype from him. But I saw another one, I can't remember the name. It might have been Happy Go Lucky or something to that effect. I remember a lot of people raved about it. I thought it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. There's something else I watched from him recently I wasn't a big fan, and this one I could not stand. It's from 1984. I believe this was like the first film that Gary Oldman, his first major role, Gary Oldman. He was one of the best parts of the movie, I guess. And then Tim Roth is in here too. And it just, I guess it's set in, it's the slow burning depiction of economic degradation in Thatcher's England. To me, it's about this family who just abuses the system. They're, I guess, on England's unemployment, and they're just getting money. And unemployment is rampant during London's working class in the East End. It's basically this middle-aged couple and their two kids, their two sons who are adults and living with them, but none of them are actively seeking employment. They're all just lazy and sitting around and not doing anything, and that irritated the heck out of me. The one kid is actually offered a job by his aunt, and he doesn't take it. And I'm just like, this is like the abuse of the system. It's not showing the depiction of them going through hard times. It's them a depiction of them being lazy and just taking advantage of the system. There's one scene. The only scene that I really enjoyed was there's this guy that was going to fix part of the house, and he has like a line in there. I can't even remember it right now, but it was the best line of the whole movie, dialogue-wise. And I didn't really care for that character overall, but that line was really great. And I can't remember right now, but it was such a short-lived moment. I was like, I wish there was more of that added some depth to the characters and the dialogue overall. But the ending to this, you could see that ending kind of coming, but I wanted more from it. And Gary Oldman is like the stereotypical like skinhead punk in here. And there's certain scenes that just don't really add much to the movie. And Tim Roth's character, it seems like he has like a learning disability. He doesn't really talk much, just the way that he acts and interacts with other people, just very kind of different than everybody else in the movie. And that's the only thing I could think of, that there's something that maybe they aren't aware of, or I don't know, maybe it's just, it's 84, not that old, but I guess during that time, maybe certain things weren't, characterized as much, or they didn't test it as much. But yeah, that's the thing that I was thinking about it. But there really wasn't much to this movie. That it was a battle of attrition to sit through. 107 minutes felt like at least double that. It's just them hanging out, talking, and again the slang. It's different slang over there. It's sometimes the accents are a little bit harder, and then also the terminology that they use. So that was something that was a little bit difficult too. But yeah, I couldn't get into this. It was dreadful for me. I hated this. This is probably the worst film that I have seen from Criterion Collection, in my opinion. But I know a lot of people are fans of Mike Leigh and his work. It was interesting to see Tim Roth and Gary Oldman in this film. I think they did well in their roles, but I just wanted a little bit more from, I wanted a lot more from the dialogue, the writing, the characters overall, the whole film overall. I wasn't into it at all. But yeah, here's a scene where I think Gary Oldman was just like in a barrel, and Tim Roth just walks by him, like just random, just the weirdness of, yeah, they're hanging out, drinking and stuff, basically just using their unemployment checks to do anything but try to find work. So meantime, was not a fan. Next up is Breathless from Godard. This is one of those films that is considered to be one of the greatest and most influential films of all time. I remember seeing when I was younger. I think, I was just a little bit more enamored with it at that time than I was now rewatching. It's a really nice addition, though. I think one of the things that made this so influential was the cinematography and editing style. I really love the look of Paris. It's a French film, obviously. He kind of ushered in with this film part of the French New Wave of cinema. But I love the cinematography aspect. I love how Paris is kind of its own character. Kind of reminded me of a lot of Woody Allen. Basically, every movie that he shoots the city in seems like a character of its own. Kind of made me think of that here. But I really did not care for the jump cuts, and I think that was one of the things that makes this so influential, all the jump cuts. But some of the jump cuts were jarring, awkward, and just didn't feel like it worked. Like there's a certain scene where the lead character is trying to steal a car, and he's looking at all these different cars, and while he's looking at one car, there's a guy behind him, and it's his car, and he realizes that this guy's trying to steal his car, and you see him getting ready to confront him, and then they cut to something else completely different. I want to find out what happened to that, the confrontation. Come on, give me something. There's other scenes like that too, where I just felt like there was a potential opportunity to have a better scene and dialogue that was missed. And I'm going to get criticized because Godard is a genius, a legend. This film also, but I feel like I'm the only one who wasn't a big fan of this. I think I seemed to like it a little bit more when I was younger. Watching it now, it's just I don't know. I'm just not that enamored with it. I do like the leads. I thought both leads were excellent. Very stunning. The lead actress in here. I love the document. There's a interview here too, and then there's like a special talking about her and just the different leads that she's been in, the other films that she's been in, kind of shaping her career. And I feel like both leads in here, this is like what they're most known for. And yeah, it stars Jean-Paul Belmondo and Jean Seberg. Jean Seberg was stunning. Love her as the look and the character, but I didn't really, a lot of the dialogue here felt juvenile. And it's basically about this guy who steals a car, shoots a police officer, and then he's kind of on the run from the police, and he's in love with the girl. You can see the spine right there. And the girl ends up telling him that he's pregnant with her kid, and they both kind of openly talk about having relationships with other people, like having sexual encounters with other people, and they're very laissez-faire about it. And it's just like, oh, all right, well, maybe that's the time, France, that kind of stuff. But I love the edition, the Digipack edition for this. But yeah, a lot of the dialogue just felt so juvenile, and just, I don't know, it's kind of certain aspects of kind of Bonnie and Clyde-esque. And you can tell that there's influence from a lot of American cinema, Bogey, there's a scene in there like that. But yeah, I just, and then just the way the characters handle themselves, and also just what happens. And then so after that, she finds out that he's wanted by the police. There's, she's working for the newspaper, and there's ads all over the newspaper looking for him, and with his picture on there. And she decides to basically cover for him. And then she suddenly out of nowhere has this epiphany and change of heart and turns him in. And I'm just like, what? Like, what led up to that? I was just like, I wanted more from it, and a little bit more explanation, because it just didn't really make sense. And I was just disappointed with how that was handled. And yeah, I don't know, I was just really irritated. Like, I don't know, I just wanted more depth, more dialogue for it. And it just didn't really, from everything that you hear about this film, I was just expecting so much more. The cinematography was good. I hated the jump cuts. I hated the dialogue. I hated what happened with the characters and how they handled the situations, and how that epiphany just, there was no lead up to it. Even the final scene, I was like, really? Like, there were certain couple little scenes here and there that I appreciated. And again, I love the leads here. And I love Paris seeing all that. It was, again, a character unto itself in it. But I don't know, am I the only one who wasn't a fan of this? I think it's hugely overrated. Again, maybe it was influential at the time, but I feel we've come so far now. I feel like we've seen so many films out there. Maybe it was something that's, again, influential then, not so much now. It doesn't really hold up. Again, I hated the jump cuts. I hated the whole storyline of it. It just, first of all, how did they even figure out it was him that shot the cop? There's nobody else in the area. He shot the cop in the woods, and then he gets away. How? Tell me how. And then why did she decide to just, cover for him and then turn him in? Like, there's so many different things that bother me about this. Maybe I'm just too analytical and just pick on those things, but the editing style I thought was just rough. It felt so unpolished, and I don't know. I feel like I'm the only person who has said anything critical about this movie. Am I the only one that feels that way? Please let me know. Am I just, terrible? I don't know. But a beautiful release if you are a fan of this. I think I'm going to let this go. I can't hold on to it just because other people think it's influential and important and monumental and a great film. have your own beliefs. Don't just listen to other people, other critics. That I feel like it's just kind of like artwork as well. It's all subjective, but you see certain artwork, paintings, and stuff like that that people consider to be great. And I look at them, I'm like, I could have painted that when I was 4. Like, just the splatter and just certain things that just don't seem that great. It could have been important hundreds of years ago, but not necessarily now. I don't know. I this one just irritated me, bothered me. Meantime as well. I'm probably going to get rid of, if anybody's interested in doing trades, Smithereen, Meantime, Breathless, To Sleep with Anger, Brief History of Time. I'm probably going to get rid of all of these. So there you go. I'm going to keep Errol in mind. I thought that was incredible. Easily one of the best rom-coms I've seen. I love the 2 leads there. I love the dark comedy elements. It was incredible for me. I can't believe I waited so long to see this one. I watched Breathless and a couple other movies first, and I was just like, these are movies that are considered classics. This is considered a classic. I was going into it, it's like, I'm probably not going to be into it, but I ended up loving the heck out of Harold and Maude. So that's the one that I would recommend out of this pile. Again, if you are a big fan of French New Wave cinema, you'll probably appreciate a little bit more than I did, probably a lot more than I did. And if you're a big Godard fan, maybe, again, you'll appreciate it more. But I don't know, I feel like there are certain elements of the filming, and I can understand the importance of the time during that whole New Wave, Truffaut, Godard, all that, certain directors that have done some influential things. But for me, I just... I couldn't get into it. I actually went back, rewatched certain scenes, and there's certain things I felt like I was pushing myself to find things about it that are worthy to be called like such a great film, influential film. But yeah, the jump cuts, I hate seeing the jump cuts in here. It just didn't work. It felt like it took certain elements out that could have been better for it, but better suited. But there you go. Let me know what you think, especially of Breathless if you've seen it. I feel like I need to go watch the Richard Gere remake too. I think the one thing I remember watching that as a kid, I had like the Silver Surfer comic books in there, I think. Maybe that's why I was attracted to that particular one. But I remember everybody hated that one. But now I feel like maybe I should rewatch that one and see if I appreciate that one more. Maybe they took elements and kind of modernized it a little bit and made it a little bit more digestible and interesting and not so juvenile, but maybe not with the comic books. I always felt like Richard Gere might have been miscast for that role too, but I'm kind of curious to revisit that one. I know maybe that's kind of, after talking so poorly about this one, then saying I should revisit the remake of it, maybe people are going to hate on me more for that, but c'est la vie. But there you go. Let me know what you think of these. Let me know which one was your favorite from these, what you picked up from the Barnes & Noble Criterion Collection sale, if you got anything, what you'd like to see Criterion Collection released in the future, and what is on your wish list for current Criterions. Maybe you might pick it up in the next sale, which I think is November, I believe. But yeah, leave me those comments down below, and I hope everybody's doing well. Take care.